What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Podcast News Award winner and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, once a month, I host the only online broadcast in the world for fathers and dads that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dads Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. I am also the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia, not-for-profit, that showcases Blacks in the diaspora or of the diaspora that are in food, wine, and travel. We're broadcasting live on April 3rd. A little chilly here in Toronto, but you know what? The two ladies are going to bring the heat as per usual. Saturday night, I wish I could Earth, Wind, and Fire song Saturday night, but it probably copyright me, like it shut it all down. So as always, Aisha K. Staggers and Jill Jones are in the house. What's going on, ladies?
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Pretty good.
Excellent. And the fans are already out. Black Beauty says hey.
Hey.
Chris Langford says hey. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chris. Hey, hope everyone's doing all right. If you don't know, these ladies bring the heat in what's going on in American politics and social political stuff over the last week. And even it never ceases to amaze me what things come up when it comes to American politics, social political stuff. To be totally honest, folks, we didn't really plan this out till about half an hour ago, but it wasn't hard to get stories. So everyone who jumps in live, thank you. So you're sort of anticipating this time slot. So we like that. Ladies, it's been another interesting week.
Yeah, sure has.
Yeah, been crazy. So you know what? Let's get the party started. So our first conversation piece this week, and I was thinking about making it, well, obviously it's the number one, but there's a lot of interesting ones going on. Let's talk about a week of compelling and potentially devastating testimony at the Derek Chauvin murder trial. And it's interesting. There's a lady named Nicole who's a big time supporter of Dr. Vibe, and she said, was it 2 or 3 days ago, says Jill is on fire. She said Jill is on fire. She says, when is Jill going to be talking about this? Jill is on fire. So hashtag Team Jill. I think I'd have to start including that in the tweets. Hashtag Team. You don't mind if I do that? You know, I'll do Team Aisha and Team Jill. So I'm going to start including that in my tweets because I don't want one without the other because you work so well together.
You do hashtag Staggers Daggers when she's doing that.
I like that. Ladies, what are your thoughts about the trial so far?
It's compelling.
They're both nodding their heads for people who are only listening to this. Go ahead, folks.
It's very compelling. I mean, I've been watching all week, and the testimony, it's I've had to take breaks. I couldn't watch it all just straight through. It's so emotional and so just, it's riveting. And you know, are you going to believe me or believe your lying eyes? You know, the video is there, and the prosecution did such a good job at showing the video from different angles and different perspectives that in the end, like yesterday's testimony, when Chauvin's defense attorneys tried to kind of, you know, make it seem like the crowd was unruly and everything. You go back to Monday and you're just like, that's not what I saw on the video. That's not what there's evidence there. But oh my gosh, the witnesses back to back to back to back.
Yeah, powerful.
Yeah. The prosecution really did a very good job of just drawing out everything from the witnesses, from not just what they saw, but what they, you know, and what they knew of the situation, but even George Floyd's girlfriend and humanizing him. making him a person rather than, because they knew that, you know, Chauvin's defense attorney was going to try and make it about his addiction. And so she made it about him as a person. And that was, you know, something that you rarely see in these kinds of cases.
I
Jill?
think that you know, it's seeing how Eric Nelson, Chauvin's defense attorney, has been, you know, beating this whole point that there was a crowd. I mean, if I played, even I've done gigs where there've been 12 people, trust me, and I never walked home and said, wow, that was quite a crowd. Woo! I'm really hot today. I had a crowd of 12 people. You know, that's a little bit ludicrous. The other thing is, you know, when he tried to make the last witness, who was the police officer, investigator who came onto the scene, he was completely ageist. He tried to make him seem like he was out of touch, that they'd been training people in the police academy differently since, 1983 when he got out. And that where he kind of tripped up is when he goes, when was the last time you were in an altercation or a fight? And he goes, 2018. Well, in my mind, you know, that was kind of close. That's pretty relative because, but what was fascinating to me is that he's trying to paint this picture of George Floyd as this, you know, he was on drugs and he was, on fentanyl and whatever. You've got to remember, Minneapolis had one of their biggest rock stars die from a fentanyl overdose. It's so out of touch for them to think, most people would think it was Quiet Town USA in Minneapolis until that happened. You know, Minneapolis has been dealing with many cases with fentanyl. How they've chosen to report it, I don't know, but it's kind of frightening to think that even if Prince had have gotten people to come to him and at an expedient time, would they have roughed him up too? I mean, obviously not, because he's Prince. He was Prince, but you know, the whole point is I think it's very tone deaf, and that the prosecutor's case is very strong because they are unraveling everything that they've already anticipated, them painting George as this ne'er-do-well, blah, blah, blah. But what's interesting is that the defense is really out of touch. It also, the notes that Derek Chauvin, the police officer, is taking, it's like, you know, I hope he's writing a book or whatever he's doing. I think it makes him look indifferent, like he doesn't care. I don't think it's a good look to be sitting up there taking notes. I mean, he can always go back to his cell or wherever he's going and think about it or try to find a different way, but that's not the way. I think earlier in the week, we saw testimony, of course, as Aisha said, that humanized him to a degree. He had back pain. This could be anybody's relative that went through this. And, what's peculiar is that the tears and everything, it's peculiar that the whole, I know that what needs to come out in the testimony is the fact that Chauvin was a man waiting to kill people. I think there's one witness that's on the list from a list of other people who had encounters and run-ins with Derek Chauvin, one who was choked out. And there's countless stories. Like, this was something that the actual police department had been overlooking for a long time. It was really only a matter of time before he killed people. He choked out a 14-year-old child as well. So I don't think that, I think I was a little concerned earlier with regards to your friend, with Nicole, saying, you know, I did tweet something about when they said one of the jurors couldn't sleep and she was sick and all of this stuff. And I was like, it figures, you know, that, you know, it would be one of the Caucasian persuasion, because there's really only 4 alternatives. And I know it seems like that's a lot, but you've got to account for it. This is going to be a 6-week trial, so you have to account for a lot could happen or change. So I got a little bit nervous about, okay, great. Of course it's going to be, one of these dainty, but you never know what game people are playing. Because a mistrial, if it's claimed, that would be it. So this is a serious, sickening case. Watching this over and over, I like that the prosecution keeps saying, your eyes, watch what your eyes are telling you, because when you hear Officer Lane say to Chauvin while he's got his knee on Mr. Floyd's neck, he says, I don't feel a pulse. And it was already, Chauvin said, well, they're coming, and it took 8 minutes from that time, 8 minutes for the EMTs to get there. So basically, when the witnesses who come forth earlier, the children, all the people who were the crowd yelling, they were yelling because they were watching someone being murdered, as one of the wonderful, the off-duty firewoman had reported. I have a thing about, you can feel when life leaves a body, and a lot of times, if you've seen it, you can see when it leaves. It's the spirit, because until I'd seen it, I was holding one of my pets, my dog, once, and she passed away. And it was like, I know the moment, because I could feel that she was slipping. That's a real strong connection. But, maybe sociopaths like Derek Chauvin don't. I mean, his prosecutors want you to see this as if you're watching it on TV. The reality here is that in real life, you see, and you can see when spirit transitions. You speak to anybody who's a nurse, a doctor. It is a spiritual thing. It is there. All they were trying to do was bring him back. And that's the difference. Even when I spoke of Prince, when he had his overdose on the plane, when you want to get into technicalities, the Narcan brought him back. Technically, he was dead if they didn't have anything else on them. And the fact that he thought he was on something, so why didn't they use Narcan? Why wouldn't they have gone and done CPR? These are the couple of things. Like, you think he's on something, so you're going to sit on his neck. But even in distress, or he goes unconscious, you don't even do Narcan. Excuse me, that's crazy. And even then, you're completely, like the testimony of the police officer was saying, he had his arms handcuffed. There really wasn't that much he was going to do to them. And if Derek Chauvin is afraid at that point, he shouldn't be a cop. None of them should be. And I could think that you could feel when he died, everybody was getting their like biscuits in a row, like, so to speak, because they all knew. There was the odd shake of the leg by somebody at the end, which I'm thinking is the mixed race kid, who at that point was like, oh, F-U-C-K, and took his body camera where it just sort of turned and was looking in the back seat of the car. That body language was really, really kind of key. Other things, and then Lane saying, I don't think there's a pulse. Let's talk about their fear of Derek Chauvin, because that's who they were answering to, because that was something that we don't know. Maybe at one point in their defense, they're going to speak about it. And if they were smart, they would say, that guy had a reputation and that needs to come out. I just don't know how much of his past they're going to bring out. Sorry to prattle on so long.
No problem. Go ahead, Aisha.
The EMT testimony was fascinating too, because when the second one got on, and he said it appeared to him that he was dead when he saw him. But the other part was that he confirmed in the video that they had to ask Chauvin to get off of his neck so that they could take him and put him on the stretcher. I mean, he wasn't he wasn't even willing to let the EMTs help, even though he kept saying they're on their way.
Right.
So the fact that they had to signal to him, like, look, we're here, get up, and motion to him to get up,
Mm-hmm.
is going to be some damning evidence, I think, when the jury goes back to discuss.
Well, well, I was going to ask a further conversation, but Chris has a comment here saying, I cannot believe there ever needs to be a trial. The video speaks volumes. I watched a lot of the trial this week, and I'm not prone to crying, but I shed a lot of tears watching and listening to the witnesses. Chauvin he says, Chauvin must be convicts. The thing that irks me to no end, conviction must be a unanimous decision by the jury.
Right.
One racist on the jury and the walls come tumbling down.
True.
Right. And he can't be tried again because of double jeopardy, which is the sad part. And I think this is why the prosecution has added murder 3, because they gave them enough options that they kind of gave them like a forced choice.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 3 options in which, of conviction to choose. So here's 3 options. You don't really have a choice not to choose. I think one of the testimonies that caught me wasn't so much the old man that was talking to George Floyd. His got me, but it was the young man at the store who said, if I had just not taken the bill, because he said he didn't think that George Floyd knew it was counterfeit.
Right.
He said, if I had just not taken the bill, none of this would have happened.
Yeah, I mean, we've had incidents where people have gotten counterfeit bills out of an ATM. I mean, it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting there thinking, well, if he really was up to no good, I mean, if I passed that, my ass would have been, I'd have drove off. First of all, y'all don't know me there. I'm not going to sit around the corner in my car.
Right.
And, for whatever the reason is, I do not believe that, that they actually didn't, that the manager of the store, it was his responsibility as the adult, because these are kids that work these jobs. They should never have gone to anybody's car, number freaking 1, because and risk their lives over $20. Because what if it was somebody who, they spoke to him, they, said whatever. You just don't do that to your staff. I would have quit on the spot. I would have been like, the hell I am. You know what? Take the $20 out of my check and here you go. But, this is, there's something about this, whole thing. And the kid is suffering. And a lot of these people need to be in therapy. They need some kind of therapy.
Okay. So, and you're reading my alleged mind. I'm going to just put that on hold. We have another comment from Cesar, and actually you would remember Cesar when you were on one of my Sunday programs, gentlemen. Cesar Remy, he's saying white supremacy is 45 starting an insurrection yet golfing, just as Chauvin committing a recorded murder in front of all, yet sitting in a trial where race is reversed. A black man, even cop, would be tried at the highest level as sentenced to death if possible.
Yeah. No doubt.
No doubt. But I keep hoping for a new America, because I think that within all of those jurors' families and all of these things, I hope that I really hope it resonates. But he has to get some kind of conviction, even murder 3. He just has to. And I'm going to go on the faith of that if they want that town burnt down again, somebody better he needs to serve some time.
Yeah. And also too, because the video evidence is so
damning. It's obvious.
It's because we're seeing new video that hasn't been in the media before the trial. Sure. There's like, you see this now at different angles, and it's just, there's no way
And what was great is, you're right, because the girl, the Miss Hanson, the fireman, when she walks up, then you also hear the testimony of the EMT, Derek Smith, who said, I was just, anybody could do CPR. I don't care. I'm just trying to take care of my patient. It's very interesting how they all kept saying the patient, the patient, the patient, because that is their job. That's their job. Everyone is a patient. The only people, it's like this defense is creating this whole thing that they don't see. Training constitutes not just empathy. These people aren't just more, have this empathy for what happened. What I liked about some of the AMT's methodology is that they were trained. So you're bringing people to a scene where they're in a drama and they see somebody basically killed somebody, and they're like, okay, I need to we got to get out of here and move the hell on, because my job is to take care of this patient. So it wasn't like, oh, I feel so bad. It is like, you're killing the patient. And then they're angry because their skills were challenged or thwarted in some way and prevented in doing what they do. Because every death that they deal with, it has to take a toll on them anyway, because they're giving a lot to bring people back. And when he said, because even within the protocol, when you're flatlining, Derek Smith had mentioned, there's a protocol if you get the electrical pulses and it's very, very low. And George Floyd had that for a split second. But that was the only thing. Now, let's be honest, we don't know 100% what that readout really said. It could be that, whatever that happens, we'll probably hear an expert explaining what the process with cardiac arrest and all of that can send false signals or whatever. But the reality is that he did give him the paddles, and if you go by protocol, there was nothing showing him to do it because he had flatlined. He was flatlined from the time they got him in, got the cuffs off. Look at all that time. So add on another minute that it took for them to get the keys from the other police officer. Let me take your key to get these off. All of that exchange had to happen. And that was time, and valuable time. And then you're sitting there with the pressure of bringing somebody back. I might have driven down the street too, because the fact is, you guys hand me over a dead body and expect me to be Jesus with a crowd. Oh, hell no. Hell no. That you incited, because if anybody incited the aggression in the crowd, it was Derek Chauvin. It wasn't the other way around. And the fact that is his defense, is to blame the crowd that they prevented Mr. Floyd getting care. That's a very dangerous thing, and the judge shouldn't even allow that. They should not allow. They better be very damn careful how he allows that defense to constantly put it on people who are already bearing a tremendous amount of guilt, not just for the fact that they gave the police their due, but so many of them had the power, wanted to rush them so hard. And probably one of them could have messed him up completely, but he was restrained. They were the only restrained people in the bunch, in the whole thing. The police officers weren't. And that's what the prosecution has to lay on. Like, I think they did a little bit with the MMA guy. He held back because he wanted to bash somebody's head in. And then the girls who were like, I wish I could have done something. And because of those guys being protected by their guns, what kind of crowd is coming for you when they're afraid to come after you? That ain't a crowd.
Yeah. And there would have been 2 dead bodies instead of 1, which is, the crowd knew better. It's like, if they see you killing one Black person, you've got Black people standing around watching this crowd. What are you going to do to them if they approach you? And, you mentioned the MMA guy. His testimony what he saw what the defense was trying to do when they told him they were trying to insinuate that he was an angry black man, and he
Mhm.
said, "You're not going to paint me out as angry. I was professional. I stayed in my person."
Yeah, he did. But you know what the interesting thing is? For all this crowd talk, I was actually quite sad that there weren't more people. There really were only about 12 people or 15, and some left and walked away. Now, this was a busy street, and when you put it together, that's all that was there. Maybe a few across the street, and a
Right.
man was killed. I mean,
Right.
in broad daylight by the police, and people were driving by business as usual. That is how Derek Chauvin was resting on the fact that he could get away with it, because there weren't 100 people, there weren't 50 people, there were 12. There were
Yeah.
people walking in and out of the store. So the most disappointing thing for me is that there weren't more people. I actually found it to be incredibly sad and heartbreaking that that's all who cared to watch this snuff movie. It was a snuff video. And people are so messed up on what they see on TV or in their Marvel comic books or whatever they've got on their games. But this is real life, and people are so dumbed down that they don't get it. But those 12 or 15,
Yeah.
shame on Minneapolis that there weren't more people who stood around. Shame on them. That wasn't a crowd. That was a handful of people that you could feed a 5-pound beef with.
Yeah. And
Th- Go
you,
ahead.
the other thing that really spoke to guilt for me was the fact that he didn't tell his supervisor. His supervisor even said, I asked what happened, et cetera, et cetera. He never once mentioned to his supervisor that he had his knee on George Floyd's neck. He had
Well,
to
because
find out.
they're trying to push that it wasn't
Exactly.
his neck. They're trying to shape it. If you notice, the defense keeps saying the back of the neck,
Right.
the lower part of it, that of the shoulder and the thing.
Right. But the supervisor saying that he never mentioned that he had any part in it, that it would just, he said when he got on the scene, he thought it was some other kind of incident that took place. So they're going to, the way that the defense is playing this, their arguments are very weak. I was very surprised in how, even like, I forgot what witness it was, but they got up there and the questions that they were asking, I was like, you're not supposed to do the prosecution's job.
All
Yeah,
right.
I
Let's
mean, when he was saying the can of paint, you're going to pick up a can
let,
of
let, let,
paint.
Yeah.
let, let me just interrupt because comments are flying in, and again, folks who are watching this live and doing live comments with us, amazing, because we didn't really put it out. We just went live and people are jumping in, so we appreciate that. So T. Stephen says, this is so sad on so many levels. The choke was done on Mr. Floyd was totally unnecessary. That kind of choke also causes a heart attack. I'm not sure this has come out in the trial. Cesar says
Yeah,
Chauvin's
Mhm.
defense rests on character assassination and instilling doubt to one white juror, as ultimately the EMT, but especially Lieutenant Zimmerman, sworn testimonies. He broke that blue wall of silence, are damning on facts, character and doubt, not facts. But he must be called out by the prosecution, if not someone else testifying. Chris
true.
is saying on the money, Aisha. Christy White, absolutely. Chris is saying here, true, Jill, look at the Asian lady beaten in New York City. Witnesses abounding and nobody stepped in to help. Humankind is truly numb to the horrors in society.
They are.
Yeah, the other thing I'm wondering is if they're going to bring up the fact that George Floyd and this officer worked at the same club before.
Right. I hope
I
so.
I hope that they bring that into evidence, because um, it could be that he's had it out for him.
It's weird because I think the guy whose case, there is a case where a Spanish guy had come to Minneapolis and went to the bar wherever Chauvin and Floyd worked. And somehow Chauvin just picked him out of the crowd and kicked him out. And it was freezing winter and wouldn't let him have his coat. And it turned into chokeholds and whatever. And ultimately, the guy, he slammed him on the pavement, prone. There are a few cases like that. So hopefully they bring in these altercations that happened while he was moonlighting. I don't know. There may have been there had to have been something that transpired between them. And let's not forget how they showed up to the side of his car just from over $20 counterfeit. Get the fuck out of the car, get your hands up, get the fuck you. You know, those are the police.
With the guns raised.
This is supposed to be the constructive or critical thinking moment. So if you walk up to anybody like that, personally, as a tough guy, you're not, it's like you already, what you seek is seeking you. And that to me says so much about, is that how they like get their jollies? Like, get the fuck out of there. They saw a big black man, and we know that these people are scared immediately, or they just want to create beef to say, get your fucking hands up. Not like, hey, do you understand you actually passed a phony bill? I'm giving you a ticket, a summons, and bloop-de-bloop-de-bloop. It is a misdemeanor. It's not even a felony. It's like some petty ass BS. That's not really police work. It really isn't. It's called, we'll show your video to investigators. They'll go to your house, give you a ticket, and you'll have to show up somewhere. If it escalates to something else, fine. But I mean, seriously, they were gunning for it. They were so hard up. And I don't know if Chauvin, if he thought if they thought they were in such fear, why didn't they call for backup from other police officers? Why not? They had their things on. And interestingly enough, let's not forget how Derek Chauvin threw off his body camera. He threw it off. It was so obvious. It's like he threw that off so it slid under the car. That's a shady MF. So the things like, if you just look at him, you couldn't even spruce him up to make him look likable. Mainly, you couldn't even put round glasses on him and make him look like, hello, hi, I'm a really nice guy. You can't. He's got mean eyes. He's got a sociopathic look in his face. And I think that black, white, any colored person looking at that man knows he's unstable and he's crazy and he wanted to kill somebody. And I would believe that he's probably done it so many times before. And
all right.
Yeah. And he's got a very hard, cold stare about him, and you can just see it in the courtroom.
Okay, T. Stevens saying, please remember that Chauvin not only had his knee on Mr. Floyd's neck, but he also had his hand in his own pocket. The hand in the pocket is a technique to focus energy and intent on. Mr. Chauvin knew exactly what he was doing with that malicious intent.
He did. His body language was very clear. Let's hope that, that the jurors are smart enough to understand it. But this whole thing about beyond a reasonable doubt, I mean, to say this is where it's going to be tough for everybody. And we've got to really hope that the prosecution really pushes hard on that, because the reasonable doubt is, well, maybe the drugs killed him. But here's the point. How long had those drugs been in his system? They do wane. They do go in and out. They do. So we don't know if it was earlier in the day, in the middle of the day, or what.
So let me ask, before we move on to our next conversation piece, what additional impact is this going to have on many Blacks' trauma? Because that was the other thing that Nicole was mentioning to me, saying that she says she's just concerned about Black men watching this trial, just adding to trauma that may already be there, or more Black men now be getting trauma because of they're watching this trial.
Yes, absolutely, because it's starting to bring back their fears of things they've passed off, not paid attention to. There's a really amazing poem by this Wistawa Szymborski. I can't remember all of her name, but it says basically, you were lucky because is what it's called. You were lucky because the phone rang. You were lucky because the shoe dropped. You were lucky because the person cut you off in traffic. It's a poem about people looking at their lives and looking at where they escaped or narrowly missed something horrible happening to them. She was talking about like Holocaust victims or anybody who has died, but telling people you were lucky because of the things you don't know what else is happening in the world. You walked down that other street.
Yeah.
So I think that people had a moment watching the trial to go, they're lucky every single damn day that they drive in America as a Black man or a Black woman. You're lucky when you get home every day, every single day, because all it takes is one bad cop. All it takes is, that's the crazy thing. The encounters, so every day you are lucky because when you get home safely, and that trauma of thinking of that alone, it's like going out to war every single day,
Right.
and not being blown up by an IED. It is the same feeling. So yes, there's a PTSD associated with living,
and it's going to
surviving.
and also too the trauma to children, because this video is everywhere.
Yes.
No one can escape it. Black children, Black women, Black parents, no one can escape it. It's out there. So it not only traumatizes Black people, but I think it's going to continue to re-traumatize people if there is no justice.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's more comments here. Christy White, same excuses here in Canada for Indigenous. And yes, it can add way more trauma through this. Cesar says, to what extent can a white man be in danger? Notably a white cop to fear a Black man and crush his neck while keeping his hand in his pocket. Specifically, when the white cop knew that the Black man had him face down in handcuffs. To me, Chauvin committed first degree murder. He had he been called Tyrone or Jamal Chauvin, we know.
Well,
and he continues on. Yes, CBT, collective Black trauma. Rodney King, Trayvon Martin, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, etc., etc., etc.
Well, they had no problem incarcerating and removing the Somalian police officer who accidentally shot the white woman who ran out of her house when she called police. That wasn't, they had no problem, a jury had no problem convicting. And as far as I'm concerned, and we didn't even see any video really for that. I mean, maybe we saw some, but here's the thing, that was, this is something that's been brewing for a long time with Derek Chauvin, which is why they all try to figure out what to do. And possibly crossing the blue line will be the chief of police who's going to testify on Monday. So they have to, this man, Chauvin, has been a thorn for a long time. And as I keep saying, it was only a matter of time.
Yeah.
So what? Go ahead.
And
Aisha.
I think one blow to the prosecution, though, is that the passenger in the car is not going to be testifying. He's pleading the fifth, and he's not testifying.
The drug dealer.
Yeah.
So let me, you know what? I'll ask this now. Let's not go into this. We got other things to discuss too on top of this. But is Derek Chauvin on trial or is America on trial?
Probably both.
Okay. All right. Well, it's going on for another few weeks, folks. So every week, these ladies are going to be discussing it. So get ready. This is the appetizer. And again, people who are watching this live, thank you for your comments. Keep them coming, please. And Aisha just went, so I can tell she's not looking forward to the next 6 weeks. All right. Let's go to another interesting story. Matt Gaetz. Big time 45 supporter. He has no plans of stepping down, even though he is under investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice for an alleged inappropriate relationship with a minor and possible violation of sex trafficking laws. And when I sent this story to the ladies, they were caught off guard on this one. They didn't know about this one. So what are your thoughts on Mr. Gates?
I feel bad for Matt Gertz on Twitter because that poor man, everybody keeps getting them confused. Now, Matt Gertz works for Media Matters. Okay. Right. And people, he spent all day the other day, wrong guy, because people kept tweeting horrible things to him. Right. And I felt so bad for him.
He's not going to resign because Matt Gaetz is not going to resign because he's taking a page right out of Donald Trump's book. But here's the thing. Merrick Garland should be up and running shortly. Remember, he just got, confirmed 2-3 weeks ago.
Yep.
This is going to have to be a perp walk. I'm sorry. This is going to have to be go in his office, put the handcuffs on him, and escort him out of the Capitol because it needs to be done. These people don't want to resign. They do not deserve the dignity of their office to even be afforded the option. So, in my opinion, if they're going to indict him. If he doesn't want to go, arrest him, as you would any other pedophile, any other sex trafficker. You do not let him decide what he's not going to do. That to me reeks of his privilege. And he's a little rich kid. Yeah. I mean, when he started saying that his dad was wearing a wire, and they always say a lie, how you can tell a lie is it gets too interwoven with all this crap. Like it was like, okay, but that your daddy has nothing to do with you hooking up with a 17-year-old. And then he goes on Tucker Carlson's show and tries to play like, remember I brought a girl to dinner? And then Tucker was like, see, they don't have each other's backs. These people are all so adversarial and so, whatever that was like, no, I don't know. Because frankly, we don't even know if he was even having dinner with Tucker's wife. Maybe Tucker brought a 17-year-old too. We don't know. But all I know is the way to get rid of this infestation now is they're not president. Okay. We couldn't arrest a sitting president, but we can arrest these politicians physically. They have to go in, handcuff him, and take him straight to jail and book him. He can get his attorneys, but that has to be blown up all over because otherwise our country and the people in it will never take any agency seriously again. They barely take the FBI seriously. It really has to be just on the strength. Show us what you got. You're supposed to be the super baddest power in the world, and they're acting like a bunch of little I don't even know what they're acting like. I mean, they have no guts at all. If he's been caught doing dirty, take him out of here and make sure it's being filmed.
I just think that he is the dumbest person ever. It's like, dude, if you did this, why would you leave a paper? He left a paper trail. Apple Pay, things that the New York Times story that blew this up the other day was just chock full of things that only a lame ass criminal would do. Okay. Receipts for hotel rooms and this and that. And then the way that his press team tried to distance themselves from it. Did you read the statement? Matt Gaetz is not guilty of this. Matt Gaetz such and such. Matt Gaetz such and such. Matt Gaetz hopes to find the love of his life. I was just like, what?
Yeah, but did I correct me if I'm wrong? Didn't his communications director resign?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, that's not a good look. And I also been hearing that there are no members of the GOP that are supporting him on this. Everyone's
they're waiting for him. They're apparently I was hearing today on the news, apparently they're all like secretly hoping that this blows up in his face.
Oh, stinky Jim Jordan supported him.
Yes, that's true.
The one
That
he
is
always
true.
looks like he stinks.
But there's
but of
that
course Jim
lady,
Jordan supported him because Jim Jordan has his own issues to deal with the
wrestler,
Ohio State University wrestlers.
wrestling. And there's the lady, that lawyer, who has that.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene supports him, of
Yes,
course.
yes. Both those two are still are on Matt Gates' side. But let me just get some comments here. Cesar goes, Matt Gates, aka Dirty MAGA.
Totally.
and Chris saying, oh Lord, Cockroach Gates, he needs to be put behind bars, possibly designing the Roman Polanski coloring book. Oh,
Sure.
shot.
I know.
He tripped up on Tucker Carlson and called her a 17-year-old woman.
Yeah, a woman.
I was like, when I saw that clip and he said that, I was like, ew.
You know, it's interesting because Bill Barr was the one who opened the investigation on him. And I mean, at one point I started to think he is a weird link in all of this. It's like a ball of yarn. And sometimes you've got to pull a different kind of string to see what's going to come out because they're all interwoven. And I was like, so is this how Trump really started getting stuff on people? Because there was a point where Matt Gates turned into the most zealot of Trumpdom. You know, he's great. And it sort of looks like there was a real kind of bill because I think he knew he was being investigated,
Very J. Edgar Hoover-like.
Which kind of shows that this might have been going on inside the House anyway. The fact that Trump failed to push them to get rid of him with his "we don't stand for pedophiles" and that whole QAnonymous bullshit. You know, I mean, he probably was like, hey, let me get in on that. The interesting thing is that the girls now have started sharing their calls. There was one with that real freaky tax collector guy that had already they threw him to the wolves earlier. Yeah. But you got to also understand that Matt Gates is also a singer. He's going to be singing too, but they got to get him in jail first because he's got to be taken away so that he starts singing because he definitely knows something on some people because you wouldn't act so brazenly with the receipts and all of that like you're above the law. When you feel you have that kind of security, then who do you have in your back pocket? But that pocket got changed. You know, ain't nobody wearing them jeans no more. Trump ain't in the White House. So
Cesar is saying here, white privilege, the sense he can't be caught is above the law. Gates is said to have been bragging in Congress of minors that he dealt with. Gates is a true disciple of 45.
Yeah, and showing pictures, naked
and
pictures.
And so is the Congress. So is the
Congress,
though. It doesn't say much for them that they didn't come out and go and say, this dude is trafficking pornography on his phone. I don't get it. And you're standing there looking at it.
Yeah.
Black Beauty saying, I totally agree with Jill. And she says this in capitals. He definitely needs to be taken out in handcuffs and arrested and booked. Dr. Vibe, you asked a powerful question whether or not America's on trial. Yes, we are. Next up, Chris says, OMG, Jill, I always thought the same thing stinky Jim Jordan. LOL. He does look like he smells.
Like he lives in the back of his car. Like he lives in the back of his car because he's always wearing the same outfit every day.
And he has never crotch rot. Crotch rot.
And Cesar saying Gates is good for Sing Sing, but don't forget, he may get Epsteined.
Well, remember, he was the one who was talking about how we needed to close the door on Epstein. He was really big.
That's
he was
true.
really big on doing that.
Yes, I forgot about
big
that.
on that.
So he may not want to resign, but you know, his daddy can't get him out of this. And I think that hopefully the DOJ, and as we watch the peas and the carrots and the onions and everything separate in this stew, we will learn more. It's coming out every day.
Yeah.
And now the girls wanting to come on TV and talk. Oh, it's just
And
going
the
to
girls
get
are
really.
sharing their text messages with
And then the
people.
little
it's
boy that
oh
lives with him. It's so sordid. It's actually, I feel like I need a shower after talking about this. It's really gross. And I wonder
Yeah.
why that boy Nestor lives with him. What has he been making that kid do?
Mm-hmm.
T. Stevens says America's on trial and the world is watching. I think that's been going on for a few years, but this is
Yeah.
just hiding it. And Cesar Remy says, "Yep, America's on trial."
The funny thing about this Matt Gaetz thing is not just that it was the investigation started under Trump and Bill Barr did it, is that it opens up the possibility for people to start looking at all the other investigations that Bill
That
Barr
he
was
had.
doing
Exactly.
into other people like Lindsey Graham and like
Yes.
Kevin McCarthy and
Who
all
said
these other
Hoover? You
sycophants.
guys said J.
I
Edgar
did,
Hoover.
yeah, like
Yeah,
J.
it's
Edgar
very J.
Hoover,
Edgar
all
Hoover
these
like.
other sycophants that we were wondering what did Trump have on them.
All right. Well, again, 2 stories ongoing. I wonder which one will get more coverage by the media. Just saying. Let's go to the next conversation piece. Biden's infrastructure plan targets transportation, but could put auto jobs at risk. So President Joe Biden has released, is it a $3 billion plan, I believe, to upgrade and the infrastructure? Because, and I heard some crazy amount of how many hundreds of thousands of bridges in America are at risk that need to
We've
be
had a
repaired.
few. Yeah, we've had a few accidents and people have died because they've collapsed. A few years ago, there was one.
Yeah, a
I mean, it's
major
better than
one.
building a wall. If you have a useless wall that only, like 30 miles got built? Don't even start. Don't even get started.
So, ladies, what do you think about the introduction of this infrastructure plan? And wasn't something that was supposed to happen with the last president, and it didn't?
Oh, yeah.
He kept talking about infrastructure week, but the thing is, he never understood what infrastructure was really, because it's not just about like the governor of South Dakota does not understand what infrastructure is. It's not just about rebuilding the roads and the highways. It also talks about the pipelines and the waterways and buildings and making sure that buildings are secure. So it's a lot, but the infrastructure plan, it I was reading the article about it putting auto jobs at risk. I don't know. I still need
They're
to look
already at
into more.
risk.
They're
They're
they
already at
are.
risk. I mean, they're already at risk because we're behind the times on some of this technology as far as like our workers and their skill sets. I mean, we have a very interesting thing happening generationally. And I just want to be very clear about this because, you guys know this is going to sound roundabout, but like, that I order my Japanese teas from Japan and they're like hand rolled and all of this stuff. And I was watching that, these to have hand rolled tea to dry it was considered like the highest form of a job for a career for some of these masters who did this. But as we've grown, as younger people aren't looking to be like, I'm the master tea roller. Y'all can, these younger people are like, get a machine. Well, what's happened is we're now in a different position where some of these jobs, not only will they become obsolete, but nobody wants them because everybody wants to be a billionaire or a millionaire. That's the American dream, remember? People who will get forced into these skilled type of jobs are people who are a little more disenfranchised, or is it even blue collar anymore? I don't know what that means anymore because I see a lot of blue collar women with nails, all like 10-inch nails and stuff, and yet, riding the bus and having it. So it's a very, very bizarre placement where we're in. So infrastructure is incredibly important because you're looking at the socioeconomics and the sociology of people that's changed. You're looking at areas in towns like Trump wanted to put in bring back the coal mines in towns that were no longer towns. People didn't
Right.
live there. You know, it's a massive approach that Biden is taking on, and it's incredible because you're actually taking a culmination of the past 40 years of like, okay, so we're here, and we're not such the industrial age as maybe the technology age now, and all of that is infrastructure, and all of it is thinking and changing. So I'm all for him doing this. The problem is we've got to get rid of those dinosaurs in office. And I am
Yeah.
so ashamed of the boomers my age who are so narrow-minded. No wonder I didn't like them then either. You know, I never dated people who were my own age. I always dated somebody either younger or older because there was a reason. These boomers my age, there's something wrong with them. They want to get what they can. Money, money, money. And they don't like to share. It's abominable. I think it's really critical that we support this because the auto jobs, we know that we're going to go into more electric cars and
Yeah.
and making sure apartment
Right.
buildings are prepared to charge these cars. All of that changes. We are resetting. It is the reset that we've been talking about. It just came sooner than people thought it was going to happen. Elon Musk has been talking about this for ages. So have, was like, AI is coming. Andrew Yang ran on that principle. And when COVID came, everybody just said, well, what the hell? We might as well go for it now.
Right.
Because we couldn't deal with oil or all of that. I mean, today I went to get gas. What was it? $4 a gallon. I mean, yeah, already. They know people got their little stimulus checks and they went, okay,
Jacked up the
here.
price.
And
Yeah,
then
totally.
and then yesterday we had the highest number of vaccines, so they know people are going to start traveling more the more people get vaccinated.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like the electrical companies out here in California have not been forcing anybody to pay their electricity bills, which is interesting. And the gas companies as well have been doing this thing. Like if you had let's say you had to put down a deposit, you were new in town and they always, you're building up your credit with the utilities division. They take that and they applied it to people's bills that are kind of errant. And there's been a lot of support to help people with these situations. But it's kind of a training thing. It's kind of you're really looking at how they're orchestrating. It's being restructured because we're going to be using more electricity, more magnets, more all of it. And I just want to make a notice. Did we all fry when 5G came along? Have we all melted? Because I
All
sure the
right.
hell
On that
didn't
note, I'm
with my
gonna
5G phone.
Chris guys will come here. That is a problem in this country, meaning America, which he lives in, and the two ladies live in. So many millennials want to make $1 million, work minimal time, and spend the bulk of the day texting on their phones. I have seen it firsthand. Sad for us boomers when we hit the golden years with millennials calling all the shots.
True,
I don't want to go there.
But I will say that I have seen that, unfortunately, I've seen people not have a good work ethic in America. I know from Germany and France, people actually do work when they're working. Here, I see a lot of people screwing around, and that's why ultimately there's software now, tapping software, that everybody reads the report at the end to see really what the hell their people are doing. I don't know how to explain what it is with the work ethic in America. I don't get it. Even hiring people to do certain things, just to give your 100%, no matter what it is you're doing. That's the interesting thing. There's something wrong here. And that's a whole other discussion, but it's very bad. It's bad.
So what do you think the odds of Biden getting this through?
They're going to have to they're going to have to do reconciliation on it, though, because the Republicans are against it. Why? Because they liked infrastructure week, the idea of infrastructure week under Trump, because it meant that they didn't have to do anything. They could just say the word infrastructure and that was it. They didn't have to make any kind of commitment. There was no, they didn't have to put any money behind it or any effort behind it. And now that Biden's here and is and has the control, and they really want to actually do something and put the money behind it and actually force people to do something. Because also remember, the infrastructure plan, it could put auto jobs at risk, but it's also going to create a bunch of new jobs. So it's kind of like people won't be necessarily out of jobs. There will be work for people, and people will have to train for new jobs. There'll
I
be
mean,
money. There's money in there for training. There's money
I'm
in there
so
for
tired of
training.
this. I'm tired of hearing people moan about having to go and up their skills.
Yeah,
Because if we never did that, people would still be like using an abacus to, like, figure out their money or whatever. I think that when Joe Biden made a comment the other day, he laughed when he said the Republicans, isn't this the stickler? They've all been pushing for infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. So he's giving it to them. See, I told you those Scorpios are slick.
yeah,
Here it is. Here's your infrastructure, what you want to do. The thing is, the problem with if he does think that Republicans are the type to be like, Joe's making good sense. I like him. Let's work together. They'll take it, and then they act like, like savages, like take the bread and then eat it and then be like, and still not come to you. They're like feral. They are a bunch of feral
right.
ass people. And, so the whole point is, I think he's kind of wedging them behind a wall a little bit,
Yeah,
which is, you've been wanting it. So here it is. What are you going to shoot the messenger? Here it is. The thing is that they wanted it so they could steal it and put it in their institutions and their agencies so that they could siphon the money the way they do. But this is a whole new day, a whole new ball game, and they better pay attention to these judges that he's about to put in some of these lower courts, because some of their stuff is going to get cut off at the quick. So they better start learning how to play nice in the sandbox, because it could get very ugly.
yeah. And the other thing too is that Joe Biden's been very smart in terms of changing the idea of bipartisanship. And when he says it, he's like, let me be very clear. When I say bipartisanship, I'm not talking about in the House and in the Senate. I'm talking about around the American people.
Because the Republican
yeah,
people want it too. They want those things.
yeah,
He added 18 million. How many jobs just got added? More than what Trump did in a quarter. I
yeah,
mean, there were jobs added, and people, obviously, the corporations, feel that it's a time to be hiring people again. So that in itself is a testament of that there's some belief in what he's doing, and that they're standing on firmer, solid ground than they were before with Doofus.
yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our next conversation, and the after effects of the Georgia new laws for Georgia voting are beginning to be felt already. Major League Baseball, the head of the Major League Baseball said he made this decision himself, has now pulled the All-Star game from Georgia because of the recent voting law.
We talked about this last week, and this is one of the things I said last week, was that they were going to have to start being pulled away from Georgia for them to get it.
We did.
Yeah, it's really funny to me how all of a sudden people are getting upset. Who was it? Ted Cruz tweeting about how it's such a bad thing, and guess he won't be watching the MLB All-Star. It's like, you know what, you weren't going to watch it anyway. Please. But
no.
I find it interesting because probably the majority of owners in Major League Baseball are probably conservative.
They are.
Yeah, they are.
So I find this to be very interesting, and it's interesting that baseball, out of the four major sports, well, probably outside of hockey, has the highest concentration of white athletes.
Mhm.
And
That's true.
it's very, very interesting because for MLB to do this, I was going to say a word, this supersedes what the NBA has ever done.
Totally.
Yeah.
This is a big move.
Yeah,
This is a,
because the NBA treats people like they're the slave masters. They
yeah,
get off on that.
you know, like,
Right.
you know, they've got the players with the t-shirts and anything, but this is a
Mhm.
major thing.
Right.
And you know, you got to remember they're sponsors.
Yes.
They had to do it because of their sponsors.
Well, now
There's-
there's a lot of
'cause
backlash.
remember-
I'm hearing your former president saying that Coca-Cola should be boycotted, this, that, and the other thing. He's on a rampage.
I went out and bought a bunch of Cokes today.
Me too.
And I might even fly Delta again. I'm not sure. Here's the thing. I think that the corporations are starting to understand us, and they should, as they should. And I think that they will get the message that once you know, certain people stop wanting to film there, a lot of things have started to shift for them too.
Which brings me to a person, Tyler
Tyler
Perry.
Perry.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that just because we don't hear some things on the news, I think there are ruffles that can be made privately. I also feel that, you know, that Governor Kemp puts their businesses in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And this is, you know, this is a big problem. Although people may really love working with Tyler, production company may say, well, we're not going to film in there. We'll just go to Texas where we get a better tax write-up, or New Mexico, or wherever.
Yeah, but is Texas any better than Georgia?
No, it's not any better. But when you're moving stuff around and when you're trying to really hit home, I also think it speaks on actual businessmen now who are tired of this. They're tired of these inept politicians. And they've got, on one day, their hands are out begging them for a donation. And then on the next day, they're doing stuff to unrest the whole, you know, country. If they are seeing that, hey, COVID is basically being taken care of, I will have more behinds in the seat. That's more money for my players, more money for me, more money for all of it. When they see this little loosey-goose, down home hoedown of all these old disgruntled Trump, disgusting feral monsters, that's not business for them. They can easily cut through the emotion on that and be like, no, we don't have to tap dance the way we had to with that so-and-so who used to be in office. Now it's about business, because they are jeopardizing behinds in the seats. They are jeopardizing money flow. So they decided, we'll take the money out. And let's be honest, where this wasn't a rash decision. This was something that's been thought of. People don't just do that. They think about it and they're like going, what are our alternatives, our objectives? And they already had a backup plan. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done, because where there's one, there's many. So the bureaucracy from Kemp going down, probably it was like, enough of this BS, enough. We're taking it out of here. You know, I wouldn't say it was all so much like, oh, they really, you know, they're so against the voting thing, but you can't give minions like that power over a state when they're that incompetent. You can't even dance with them. You got to cut them.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, as far as Major League Baseball being the first sport, to
Dr.
do
Vibe's right. Absolutely.
to do it, it speaks volumes, because others will follow. Obviously the PGA is not going to do it.
That's the Masters. That ain't going to move.
That's not going to happen.
But you don't have to be in close proximity to play golf. This was bad because everybody was trying to give the NBA, and the only reason the NBA got as much attention through it was because of the players. But Major League Baseball, boy, when they went through all their COVID testings and they got hit really hard at different times and setbacks, they did.
Another factor to be brought up at the All-Star game this year in Atlanta, they were going to be celebrating the legacy of Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
And now
Ironic.
that's gone. So that's not a good thing. Real Django saying it's a big and smart move.
It is.
Yeah.
Chris saying Georgia needs to be hit right in the purse. That may force their hand to rescind this ridiculous law. Let Pumpkinhead start groveling. Let me finish some more here. And Real Django saying, and I believe he does live in Alabama. My problem with specifically the All-Star game plot is with the news media down here. They don't say if Kemp does better things like this wouldn't happen. Don't worry, Mr. Kemp is going to come up before the end of the conversation.
True.
And then finally, instead they cry about the MLB pulling out. It's not the MLB's fault. It's the Republicans' fault.
Yeah, and they need to worry about what message the guy who you said made a decision. He's a conservative, and it's like he's got friends. He's got people on the board. He's not the only person thinking this way. I can tell you that.
Right.
And it's all because things are moving forward financially in America. There's hope. There's something on the horizon. And you've got somebody dancing around like this. No, I don't think they actually want Kemp to get in, actually. I would say that there will be a lot of conservatives voting for a Democrats again, because we're on fire. We got it together this time. This is a plan. And it's a damn good plan. Like, I'm like, kind of like, yo, sitting here today, getting my shot, all of this looking and going, he really pulled this off. I mean, Biden pulled this off. I was sitting there to go get a shot. And I'm like looking around, and so were other people. And my saddest moment was thinking about the people who would never be able to get a shot and died. And that's heartbreaking because of people and their selfishness. So hell no, I'm happy MLB did it, and everybody else should get some balls and cojones and do the same thing.
Yeah.
I
heard that Tyler Perry is quietly shutting down his quietly shutting down his production.
Ooh, interesting. All right. Well, more to come. And usually where Aisha is smoke, there is fire. So I know we won't even press her any further on that. We'll leave it as is. All right. Second last conversation piece. Another police officer dies after an attacker on Capitol Hill. What is going on, ladies?
I'm not even clear as to how that's one thing the media has been kind of sketchy about, was how that police officer died. Have you been clear on that yet, Jill?
The car hit him.
The car hit him? Is that what happened?
Yeah, hit both of them. And I think somebody lost their legs. I don't know which one I heard, if that's true or not, but somebody's legs got, he drove pretty darn fast.
Okay.
And they didn't see it coming. So I think it was a terror attack. I know it was only one person, but in my mind, when you attack the Capitol of a building or the World Trade Center, for me, I don't care what color you are. It's a terror attack because you are generating terror. How about that? When you go out and you shoot people in the schoolyard, that's terrorizing. It's a terror attack, domestic terror. You are inflicting pain on your fellow citizens. That needs to be upgraded. And we can just stop saying that things, he's crazy or he did that. Of course, anybody who even buys a gun is crazy. Sorry. That's just as like anybody who feels the need to generate that energy in their lives. Give me a break. It's like, you are unstable. I can't trust, and then he's on social media. And the craziest thing is, it really makes you think, like, you got to be careful what you're saying to people online, because it can either, anything can trigger them. And did he not have any friends and family? Even his boss, obviously, I know why he was fired. He was pazzo.
Yeah. But it goes back to what they say about these lone wolves, that they're not going to be able to they're not going to be able to get a hold on all of these lone wolves. And
Oh, come
just
on.
a
Then
few
it's
days
up.
ago,
I don't
well,
believe that. I think that there's enough of us who see people online. I saw a dude the other day and I was like, you need to be investigated just on the strength, babe. Like, I mean, honestly, and I did. I forwarded his stuff right over to the FBI. Y'all need to look at him. There's just something wrong. There's a
yeah,
big incel movement in America. It's actually sorry, but social media has to account for this because they're getting they took down that boy's stuff so fast. It's like really hard to indicate how long has this been going on. There has to be an algorithm for crazy. Am I wrong? Or sketchy or I don't know, walking a fine line. What do
yeah.
you think, Aisha? Sorry to
I
interrupt,
just
but
no,
yeah.
I was just amazed, like you're saying, that they took down his stuff so fast. This all happened really quickly.
Mhm.
Between the time that the incident happened to how they're like they got his social media stuff down really fast. It all
Mm,
happened like within an hour.
mm.
Well,
But
I don't know. Was he
just
recording live? A lot of them do
I
that
don't
too. And the moderators can see it sometimes. They don't have enough moderators. And what a hellish job because those moderators see all sorts of heinous stuff and they try to block as much as they can before it comes on. But they've seen things that they actually are in therapy. Most of them I've read have the worst job to
yeah.
moderate what people feel is appropriate to put online. And they have seen murders and they have seen things. So I was wondering if he actually had started filming and it was live and no, we just didn't catch it or we didn't know because
Yeah.
it did come down rather fast. So it
Yeah,
was
it
like,
did.
did a moderator see this and went, oh, holy what? And blocked
Right.
it? Just don't know. But he was crazy as hell.
Yeah, and it's funny because earlier this week you had Republicans talking about, oh, the fence needs to come down and this and that, and they're making such a big deal. Imagine had that fence been down.
But it isn't even a fence
The
that he ran
blockade.
into. It is a
No, the
barricade. It
blockade.
only comes up to
Barricade.
your thigh. That's not a fence. In
No.
fact, they need a bigger fence.
Yeah.
They need a wall.
But
That wasn't a
imagine
fence.
had that barricade not been there. But the barricade's there because the fence is up. And there's all that's there to kind of keep people and keep their distance away. Imagine had that not been there.
Mm.
Right. But imagine that, there's a poor man who lost his life and the other
Yeah.
one is still seriously injured. But, there's going to have to be whoever is heading up the Capitol Police right now. I'm sure they're all having some serious conversations about what they need in protecting. Okay, sending the National Guard away, maybe not such a good idea. See, there has to be some accountability for some of these things these senators have said. They
Yeah.
have said things such as to incite people, to keep them angry, to keep them questioning, to keep them thinking that they're being surveilled, all of it. The media is responsible for it too. But social media needs to be put on a chain. It needs
Yeah.
to be regulated what people can and cannot say. You are talking to strangers. You do not know them. You don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on. And we all would like to wish the condolences to William Evans and his
Yes.
family. 18-year veteran. Just
It breaks my heart.
not
Yeah.
necessary. Not
No, it isn't.
necessary. Not necessary
Mm-mm.
at all. Well, the last thing we do here, the ladies, they talk about this episode's cockroach. And they have unanimously elected Governor Jeff Kemp of Alabama. Why are you picking on Mr. Kemp?
Alabama.
Alabama, you mean Brian Kemp of Georgia?
Brian Kemp.
Sorry, Brian Kemp. My mistake. Sorry, Brian Kemp.
Brian Kemp of Georgia.
Yes.
Why are you picking Brian? Why are you picking on Brian?
For one, he had that the state representative arrested for knocking
Yes.
on the door because she wanted to be able to witness him sign the bill that restricted voting rights when he only allowed, 6 white men there as they stood in front of a picture of a plantation while he signed the bill. which was a felony. He had a charge with a felony.
It's Representative Park Cannon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she said she's not going to go away on this, but that was cruel because she faces up to 20 years in jail, a felony. It is not. So for me, I'm watching a court case about a misdemeanor $20 counterfeit bill that killed somebody. And anytime I see Black people put in a position where they can try to enforce rules, it frightens me a lot, because Brian Kemp has been making everybody today, it's funny, they're trying to make it like, oh, this new bill that they're passing, it's about you can't have water and snacks in the line and all these people and bloop-de-bloop-de-bloop. It is not just about that. It is, and the fact that the media got hung up and tripped all over themselves about it, it is not. There is something where in this bill where the State Board of Electors can, if they don't like the outcome of something, they can disagree and change it. Now, that's
crazy.
That's bad.
Yeah.
And that's what needs to be the conversation, because yes, your voting rights are being taken away, but they're taken away the minute somebody says, well, I know, good old boy, that you won, but we don't think you won at all. We don't agree with it. They tried that with Trump. And this is why Kemp is so duplicitous, and he goes back and forth with his issues with Trump, and then he's going to uphold the election. You know, right. There were some Republican people who played Trump as well in their favor. So can we get a judge down here who's going to do X, Y, and Z? Because those judges that they got appointed to their states by kissing Trump's behind are now there, that have pushed and elevated and made these laws happen. So that's all that's about. And if I were Donald Trump, I'd be fucking pissed, because I know exactly what games they were playing. They glossed him so much. Even Mitch McConnell, they glossed him. Yeah. And he's the type of dude that is like, you owe me. And here I am knocking on your door. You owe me. And he will ride them till the cows come home. Or like the Don that we think he is. They better watch themselves, because this is what they're doing. And with this woman, they want to make an example of her. And I'm sorry, I was terrified when they arrested her, because I just never had seen where a congresswoman, that no member of Congress is allowed to be in that room for this signing. If that wasn't racism, I don't know what is.
Well, Real Django is saying, yes, a big flipping cockroach. He says it's horrible. He says his wife and are seriously looking to get out of Georgia. ASAP.
Yeah. And note that he did this and pushed for this immediately, because they know that Senator Warnock has an election coming up.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. So Alabama. Oh my.
Georgia.
Atlanta.
Georgia.
Georgia. Sorry. So I have it wrong. He's the governor of Georgia, not Alabama.
Yeah, governor of Georgia.
Sorry for people who are watching this. My mistake. We're going to correct it before we get off air here, so I can correct it. So let me.
I was like, Jeff Kemp from out. Who the hell?
Oh,
what did he do?
There's too many. No, there's too many of them. So let me get it right here. Georgia. So governor of Georgia. So we finally got it right at the end. So my mistake, everyone. Ladies, another epic conversation as always. And thanks to everyone who chimed in live. Again, we didn't get a chance to promote it, and bang, bang, bang. Everyone was still here. Oh, Real Django, Alabama is awful. Dr. Vibe, LOL. All right, no problem.
I do like that show, Hometown in Alabama. They're like refurbishing a lot of houses on HGTV.
Chris is saying, Dr. Vibe, Aisha, and Jill, thank you again. Happy weekend. Happy Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter.
Yep.
Stay safe and be well. And if you're celebrating Passover, happy Passover also.
Yep.
If you're doing that, thank you, Black Beauty, Chris, Cesar, T. Stevens, Christy White, and anyone else who watches live. If I didn't mention you, it's my head, not my heart. Hope you can watch it on the replay or also listen to it on the replay. I tell you, never a dull moment in the United States. Never a dull moment. All right.
Yes.
So, folks, Aisha Staggers. No, Aisha, we're going to do Jill first. Jill, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Twitter, probably Jill D. Jones. Yeah, I'm kind of chilling a little bit on it. Although apparently I wasn't last week. So
no, you weren't. When people from my community are calling me about you, what?
Yeah, I always say I'm not going to do any. I'm taking it, and then I'm like, oh my.
Not any happening. All right, and then we've got Aisha Staggers. How can people get a hold of you?
Twitter at Aisha Staggers.
Okay, that's beautiful. We love it. We love it. And thank you again, ladies. I am Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, and co-host and producer of this wonderful thing called Staggers. Say the things that is on most Saturday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Like to just say thank you again for everyone who watched this live. Just some last comments here. T. Stevens, another excellent show with great content. Look forward to the next one. Thank you all. And Real Django waving and clapping his hands. Fantastic. And I'd like to say, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. It just gets better and better each week because of your support, everybody. If you want to get in touch with me, the best way to do that, the best way is to go to my website. My website address is drvibeshow.com. I'll just put it up here on the screen. If you're watching live on the replay, that's the best way to get a hold of me. Twitter at drvibeshow. The Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, YouTube, The Dr. Vibe Show, email address. Again, I'm going to put it out there. If anyone would like to join these ladies for a conversation, there is my email address. They would love to have you. We'd love to have you on. If you're camera ready, I know you're content ready, you have to just make sure a little bit camera ready and you're good to go. So, as always, I like to close off with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller, get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Everyone, thank you so much for your support. God bless, peace and well, keep the faith, and walk good. See you next time, probably next Saturday, and be safe and give yourself grace. Good night.